Today I am here with Johanna Rowland, a married mother of two daughters who is also a principal project manager at Amtrak in Philadelphia. Welcome, Johanna.
Hi.
So, I'm really excited to talk to Johanna today because we have a couple of very unique things in common. First of all, we were both raised in the same high control fundamentalist religion that requires women to be in submission to men's authority, and a religion that actively discourages post secondary education. Nevertheless, we both made education a priority. In fact, Johanna has earned an MBA. She also has a position of authority at work. Now, these are two things that would never have been possible had she stayed in the high control religion. So, Johanna, am I missing anything here? And maybe you could share how we met. Well, met online, anyways, because you're in the US and I'm in Canada.
Right, right. No, you're not missing anything. Well, I was disfellowshipped from the Jehovah's Witnesses for the last time in 2008, but I didn't realize that I was fully out until the start of the pandemic. And a friend of mine had recommended one of Lloyd Evans' videos, and I watched that and then subsequently binge watched pretty much everything that he has. So I happened to see your interview and I really identified with a lot of the things that you said. And I thought your interview was amazing. So I contacted you on LinkedIn and we kind of went from there.
Well, it's interesting that you even say LinkedIn because that's a professional social media platform. Not a lot of people have
Yes,
connected with me on LinkedIn, so it's kind of ironic, but it talks to kind of your pursuits in life, and your education and your professionalism. So it's interesting. But we both have a lot of respect for Lloyd Evans. In fact, I'm wearing his branded swag, shunned, because take the
yep,
power out of it. But he's a tireless advocate for those who have had the courage to break free from this high control religion. And also, he provides a community for those who have not yet found the courage to break free physically, but have done so mentally. So once we
absolutely.
got in contact with one another, you shared some stories that you had written about what it was like to be raised as one of Jehovah's Witnesses and the impact that it had on your life. They were very, very impactful stories to read, actually. In your story, A Moment of Triumph, you share something about what your parents said to you that is the complete opposite of what you would expect parents to say. And if you don't mind, I'd like to read this part.
Sure.
Okay. Later that evening, my mother and father, Bible in hand, discussed my future, what was truly important, and how the world could offer me nothing. When I could work for everlasting life, what more could I want? I decided to take a stand. I want to go to college. My dad bowed his head in disappointment. His eyes were sad. My mother angrily said, "If that is your decision, you will have to leave this house and you will receive absolutely no support from us whatsoever." Can you share the background to this statement and why on earth your parents would say something so seemingly contrary to logic? And then how long did it take you to actually pursue that goal? And then finally, do you have any advice for other women who want to pursue post secondary education?
Yeah. Okay. So the background of that is that I was always very, very good in school. I had taken the SAT um, without telling my parents, and I received a pretty high score on that, actually, a very high score. And my guidance counselor was encouraging me to go to college. I could really go to any college I wanted to. I graduated eighth in my high school class, but my parents expected me to be a full time minister. They expected me to go and knock on doors for 90 hours a month as a full time pioneer. And they did not want me to do anything else. So that is the background of that. And they, the only thing that would have made them proud of me is if I continued to do that. And as far as what I would say to other women, I would say just definitely go to secondary education. It's a necessity, especially in today's world. You absolutely have to do it in order to get some kind of a job to support yourself, and to not be dependent on someone else if you ever have to be alone or you are alone. As far as how long it took me to achieve that goal, I actually did do what my parents wanted me to do, and I became a full-time minister. I did that for about 2 years, and I slowly faded. And then I left the religion. I made quite a few bad choices, and I didn't start going to college until my second daughter was about 2.5 years old. It took me about 10 years to get my associate's degree, and then another 3 years to get my bachelor's degree, and then another 2 to get my master's degree.
I'm clapping for you right now because I mean that's some similarities we have. Like we both became full-time ministers for a period of time because that's what's expected of you and that's what pleases everyone else, right? And then
Right.
when when we both pursued education, and I think this is really important for people who are listening to understand, there's no rush. It took you 10 years. It took me 6 years to complete my undergraduate degree. I think
Yeah.
that's the same in the States, right?
It was actually more like 15 years. It was 10 years just to get the associate's degree.
Okay.
So it
All
was
right.
it was
So,
about 15 years.
well, like I've said before in other videos, like time's going to pass anyway, right? So just do something with your
Yes.
time. And then
Yes.
my your MBA took you half the time that my master's took me. It took me, I think, 4 years with leaves of absences and different. Life gets in the way. So if you're watching
Absolutely.
this as a woman, just do it. Even if it's one course at a time, you can do it.
Absolutely.
You know.
That's what I did with my associate's degree. I mean, my kids were little and I couldn't go to school full time. I went at night, and some semesters I only had one course. I tried to do two most of the time. Sometimes I got burnt out and I stopped for 6 months or whatever. But I just kept plugging along, and I wanted to achieve that goal, and that's what I did.
Well, congratulations for every
Thank
single
you.
accomplishment. And you know what's interesting? I think last year when I was creating videos, or maybe it was earlier this year, I did one on education because I came across one of Lloyd's videos where he kind of went inside the evangelical broadcasting system, I guess you could call it, now that our religion has become. But anyways,
Yeah.
highlighting how the leaders of that organization talk about university professors as dangerous. And I thought, that's really
Yeah.
weird. What a weird thing to say. Like, clearly you're not an educated man. So, my lessons, my takeaways from that whole experience was it taught me how to stick something out. It taught me confidence. It taught me so many life lessons. I guess it's called secondary curriculum. Those were the real
Yeah.
takeaways for me, not the actual content. So it was
Right.
just a bizarre thing to hear. So, anyways, congratulations, because an MBA is like, it's like having a PhD. I don't know. Those three letters are pretty cool.
Yes.
So I find it interesting that in your story have accomplished quite a lot, but and before I forget, you won an award. You won the 2021 CEO Circle Award in your organization. That's amazing.
Yes.
Congratulations. What
Yes.
an accomplishment. But
Thank
you
you.
highlight that although you received a promotion and won this award, that it was not easy, especially as a woman. So a couple of my
Absolutely.
my questions that I have there. Can you talk about the challenges women in positions of authority face at work, and if you think your upbringing made you deferential to men, or if they made you more of an advocate for women's rights, or maybe neither? And do you have any advice for other women who are pursuing positions of leadership and authority at work?
Yeah. So I faced a lot of challenges as a woman, I believe. Um, so before I had my degree, uh, the challenges that I faced were that I always ended up getting a lot of responsibility at work because I picked up things very quickly. And when I started working for engineers, I started being a program administrator, a project administrator, and I knew just as much about the projects as the engineers did. And people would talk to me on the phone and they would say, "Are you an engineer?" And I would say, "No." And then as soon as I told them what I was, they would look down on me. They would look at me and they wouldn't talk to me anymore. So that was difficult. And I thought, well, once I get my degree, things will be different. But what I've found is that as a woman, I always have to be on the top of my game. I always have to prove myself more than men do. Um, and I really wish that were different because it's been a struggle for me to get to where I am right now. Um, what I advice I would have for other women is just make sure that you are. I mean, it's hard to say that you have to make sure you're the best, but unfortunately, in especially in my particular career, I work in a very male oriented workplace. Railroading is male dominated, and it still is to this day. It's a tough environment to work in. The other struggle that I always feel that I have is, when I'm obviously a very strong personality. So when I assert myself, I come off as, aggressive. People say, well, we're going to sick Johanna on you. Whereas if a man were to do the same thing, he would be a go-getter. He would be looking for advancement. So those are really the challenges that I feel that women face in the workplace. I don't know what to do to change that other than just be the best you can be at your job.
Don't back down. I mean,
Don't back down. I
just do.
never back down.
Yeah. I believe that for some reason.
Yeah.
I think that's just like really interesting that you share those things, because those are like the themes, of the things that women face. If you assert yourself, you're aggressive, or you're a bitch or something.
Yes. I didn't
And
want to say that,
that's
but
okay.
that's
Well,
yes.
hopefully that's YouTube friendly. So, but it's
Yeah.
true, like, and what's interesting about that is our upbringing, and quite honestly, the upbringing of millions of other women, teaches them that they should be quiet, that they should,
Yes.
be
Absolutely.
deferential to men, and
Yes.
what's the man is the boss, the man is the leader, the man is,
Yes.
and all credit, sure, if a man is a good leader, great, lead, but not all men are good leaders either. But
Yeah.
as women, we were raised not to have responsibility in the congregation, not to speak
Correct.
up. We couldn't pray on behalf of a group without wearing like a
A head
towel on,
covering.
or a head covering.
Yep.
And certainly, if there was even a 10-year-old boy amongst us, he would lead all the women. So
Absolutely.
I digress a little bit, but what I'm saying is, we come to accept these things. We don't even question them, because
Right.
it comes, we're taught to believe it comes from a higher power. But fast forward to today, women today who are seeking leadership positions and authority, not because they think they're better than men. That's not the point at all. It's just they want to do something that has a responsibility, and to feel good about it.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes, use our brains.
Use
Um, ju-
use our brains.
I mean, we are just as capable as men. In some cases, more capable, I believe. In regards to being deferential to men, I feel like I have always bucked that my whole entire life. My dad always used to say, "You're going to have a real problem with submission when you get married." And I really never liked the idea of submission. I don't like the idea of submitting to someone, and my husband can tell you that that is absolutely true, because if he tries to put his foot down, he knows that he's going to get a fight from me. Unfortunately.
I'd have to think, like, I know with even my own husband, like, you respect one another, but it's like, if you're
Yes.
right, you're right. Like, just assert
Yes.
yourself, like there, it actually makes for more of a partnership,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
right. And do you remember watching the another one of Lloyd's videos where he showed Sam Hurd, the one of the leaders of the organization, saying that women
Women's brains are
women's
smaller.
brains are their cranial capacity is smaller than men's, which
Yes.
proves they should be in submission to men. I was like, that is the most unscientific, stupid thing a man could
It's probably
say.
one of the most disgusting things I've ever heard.
Oh my
I
God.
I hated that statement, and uh he's one of my least favorite people.
Just from that alone, it's like, really? Okay, do your research before you
Yes.
say something like that. Anyways, but we could go down a long rabbit hole with that. But the whole point is, like, if you're a woman, you want to get educated and you want responsibility, go for it. You know, it's not, it's not, it's not in our DNA. It's in
Right.
religion's DNA to tell women
Absolutely.
that they're, secondary
That they're
citizens.
lesser. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so in your story about Valentine's Day, you start off by sharing something that every Jehovah's Witness kid must go through on the first day of school, even in elementary school, like as early as grade 2, grade 1, the first talk of many with your teacher explaining what you can and cannot do. So, on the
Yes.
first day of school, the talk is always about how you don't stand for the national anthem because you only worship Jehovah, you don't worship the government. So,
Correct.
apart from the element of the story, that element of the story, you also share something about a punishment you received. And I'd like to read that part, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. We prayed. Then I pulled down my pants and he pulled off his belt. 5 stinging whips later, my ass was on fire. I want you to sit in here and I want you to think about what you did. I want you to pray and ask Jehovah to forgive you. He turned off the light and left me for the night with my thoughts. I was sad. I was angry. I was hurt. And I didn't pray. I just wanted to be nice to someone. And I just wanted to be normal for a day. I have to admit, Johanna, when I first read this, I cried. It made me cry. Now one might think by the sounds of what your father said to you that you did something very bad, very, very naughty. So, can you share what precipitated this spanking, this punishment?
Yeah. So I think it was in second grade. It was Valentine's Day, or coming up to Valentine's Day. And of course, I couldn't celebrate Valentine's Day or get any cards for myself. And there was a little boy in my class who was very sick. He was always out of school. He was very, very tiny, and he walked with crutches. Um, and my teacher said, well, since we were making Valentine's Day boxes, my teacher said, well, since you can't make one for yourself, maybe you can make one for him. And then when he comes back to school, he'll get to see all the cards that everybody gave him. And I just thought, wow, that's a really nice thing. I'm going to do that, because I think that would be a nice thing to do. So I did it. And there was another little boy in my class whose parents were also Jehovah's Witnesses. And since we're raised to tell on each other when somebody does something that is not right or against what the religion teaches, he told his mom. And then his mom told my mom. So, of course, when my mom asked me, did I do it? I lied to her. And then she talked to the teacher. The teacher, I guess, told her that I had done it. And then um, there was the talk and the spanking. So the reason why they said I was getting the spanking was not necessarily because I made the box, but because I lied about it. Um, I don't believe that to this day. I don't believe that, but that's what they said.
It's just devastating in all honesty, because as children, as young children, you accept that that's your life, right? But it's a very awkward position to be in, like when you see all the kids
It is.
in your classroom doing these great things. And like, I don't know about you, but like, I remember at Halloween, my I'd always come into the classroom the next day, and there'd be little bags of candy from friends in my class,
Right.
because they knew I wasn't allowed to go. And like Halloween, we'd like turn off all the lights and go hide in the basement. It's like, come on, so
Right.
ridiculous,
Absolutely.
right?
Big sign on the door that said no trick or treat. Nobody was
Yeah.
allowed to go to the door. We had to turn off all the lights. It was absolutely horrible. And
Yeah.
watching the parade in school. Did you guys get to have parades? Like, did your kids do costumes in a parade?
You know what? Maybe, but I probably stayed home from school that day, and so I don't really have a
I hated.
memory of that. This past Halloween, I remember, like, we were shelling out candies and stuff, and I was just observing everything going on. And I mean, fast forward, I mean, it's several decades later, but I was like, I don't understand what's wrong with this. Like, the
Yeah.
community comes together. You get to know your neighbors. You get to meet the children. You get to make them smile. You get to
Yeah.
meet the parents, and let people know that, okay, I'm a neighbor. That's a friendly neighbor. What is wrong with
Yes.
that?
There
Like,
isn't.
it's anyways. But yeah, and then other things, like especially Christmas, like in this part of the world, that's like, it's a really big deal. And there's always the Christmas concert. There's usually two events in a school year, the Christmas and end of school, but the Christmas concert is
Absolutely.
the big one. And of course, we're not allowed to participate in any of that. And like I said, I mean, probably you too, like, you just accept it. But when you look at
Yeah.
it on the other side, it's, we missed out on a lot.
Yes, we did. We did. I actually played instruments in school. I played clarinet and I played saxophone. And the Christmas concert, I was never allowed to play in it. And so I would be playing with the band, but I wouldn't be able to play for Christmas. So all the songs were Christmas songs, and I wasn't able to play. It was really, really, I hated it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, right? And I mean, there's the reasoning behind it. Parents think they're showing love, whatever. So
Yes.
rabbit hole. But so you're no longer a Jehovah's Witness, and neither am I.
Correct.
I am
Correct.
shunned. You are shunned. But
I
like
am.
me, on more than one occasion, you left and returned. So, my question
Correct.
is, what caused you to return to the religion after breaking free? And would you ever return again?
So what caused me to return to the religion is it's very difficult when you've been raised in the bubble that is Jehovah's Witnesses. Um, you have been very sheltered. And when I left for the first time, I didn't even really know how to be a real person in the world, how to act, what to do. I had never been on a date, and it was very scary. I got myself into a lot of things that I probably shouldn't have gotten into. And I missed the safety of that, and I missed my family. And so I went back. It was never because I believed that I wanted to be a Jehovah's Witness again. It was because I missed my family. And the second time I went back, it was for the same exact reason, that I missed my family. My heart was never in being a Jehovah's Witness. But after I've been disfellowshipped for the third time, I would not go back ever again.
Yeah, here, and everything you said, and I think this was one of the reasons why you contacted me after listening to Lloyd's video, was because we have a lot of similarities that way.
Yes.
And I've been disfellowshipped twice, shunned, ostracized, like you, and it was the same thing. Like I haven't gone back, but when I did go back, it was because I missed my family. I missed, well, my
Yes.
father at the time, most significantly, and you miss the stability, the structure, I guess you could say, because it's all you know. You don't,
Yes.
like you said, you don't grow up being taught life skills in the world, because the world is going downhill and is about to be
Correct.
destroyed, right? So
Everybody's going to be destroyed. Yes.
everybody that's not a Jehovah's Witness is going to die
Correct.
at Armageddon. That's how we're raised. We're raised to think. And what I find really interesting, especially in the last year, researching different things, is that Jehovah's Witnesses are not the only religion that thinks that. There's
Yeah.
so many religions that feel like only their little group of people is going to survive the world's destruction. It's kind of comical in a way. I don't
Yes.
know if it, it's like a fantasy world or something, like an episode, like a version of The Hobbit or something. You know what I mean? Like I'm just trying to find something to compare it to. But when
Yes.
you're raised this way, and anyone that's raised in a high control fundamentalist type of a belief system, your neurons are molded in the way to believe those things. So even once you leave, um it's easy to get sucked back into it, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but you experience internalized blame and shame. Did you go through that too?
Oh, absolutely. I always felt like, I mean, before I actually woke up and realized that this isn't the truth, I always just felt I wasn't good enough to be part of this religion. I just couldn't cut it.
Yeah, yeah,
And I was always told, I was told many times that I was a wicked person. And so I pretty much went around thinking I was a wicked person. And I just, I did have a lot of guilt and shame because of that.
yeah. I totally can relate to that. And that feeling of not feeling like you belong there, but
Absolutely.
where else are you supposed to belong? Because, like, people maybe that aren't aware of the practices of that religion, if you become a member or you're raised a member and you leave, your entire family, your entire social network is supposed to treat you like you're dead, essentially,
Absolutely.
like
And
not talk
I've
to
had
you.
that. Yes.
Yeah.
I've been in stores or seen people that I've known my whole entire life, and they just either like turned away and walked the other way, basically like I didn't exist.
Yeah, and it hurts, right? It hurts at first.
So I actually didn't acknowledge how painful it was until the last 2 years. I pretty much went through life thinking that I deserved this shunning. And when people would say to me, I would say, "Oh, I'm not a Jehovah's. I used to be a Jehovah's Witness, and I'm not anymore. My parents don't talk to me. My family doesn't talk to me." People would be, "Oh, like, oh, that's terrible," and I would say, "Yeah, but they're very faithful people, and I respect them for that." That's what I would always say. They're very faithful, and I respect them for that. And in the past 2 years, I've done a lot of growth. I've had a lot of growth, and I have actually acknowledged how painful it is that my family does not speak to me.
I I feel for you. I really do. And we can relate to one another in an empathetic, sympathetic way. And I find it really interesting that you said in the last 2 years, like similar to me in the last year, that our entire lives, you and I both felt like we deserved it, you know? And so,
Yeah,
oh, my father doesn't talk to me. Well, I deserve that. No, you absolutely do not deserve to be treated that way. It's actually a human rights issue, that
it absolutely is.
needs to be addressed. So, I mean, that's like a long journey, because whenever it's anything stems, policies, whatever stem from a belief system, there's like that protecting a religion, religious
Yep.
rights, whatever. So we just have to come together as like you and I, and build our own community, and realize that blood is not always thicker than water. Does that make
This is
sense?
the truth. This is
Yeah.
the absolute truth.
Yeah. So I'm proud of you, and it's up to people like us who have broken free mentally to help other people who maybe need some tips, and that's why we're talking today.
Yes.
So you're an educated and successful woman now, and I think
Yes.
that's really, really awesome. And you've dealt with many adversities in your life, and we didn't go into every adversity because who has the time for that, right? But
Correct.
your resilience has been put to the test a lot. So my question there would be, what advice would you give to other women about developing resilience? Perhaps other women who find themselves in a high control, oppressive religion, or maybe some other abusive situation. Do you have like coping mechanisms that you use, or do you have like words that you live by?
Yes, I do. Um, I so I can tell you that in the past I haven't always coped the best with adversity. But what I've developed recently, and I would say this, if my advice would be, number one, see a therapist. Therapist Therapy is the best thing that can help you to grow and and get out of that kind of a controlling atmosphere. No one should be able to make you change who you really are so that you're acceptable to them. A religion, a partner, nobody should be able to do that to you. So, um, number one, see a therapist. The other thing that I have been doing recently, I sent you two of my stories. I've been writing, and I plan to keep writing and hopefully someday compile all of that into a book. Um, Not everybody can do that, but journaling is a very, very healthy thing to do. And if you're feeling adversity, writing it down and getting your thoughts out on a piece of paper or on a page can be very helpful. Also, I read quite a bit of literature. One of the best books, if you're one of Jehovah's Witnesses and you would like to leave the religion, that I read was Bonnie Zeman. She used to be a Jehovah's Witness, and now she's a psychologist. And she wrote a book specifically for Jehovah's Witnesses that talks about why we feel the ways that we feel. And her most recent book was written for other psychologists who are treating former Jehovah's Witnesses or current Jehovah's Witnesses. And the book was fantastic, and it really I learned why I feel some of the ways that I do, and it just opened my eyes. So I do that, and I also watch Lloyd's videos if I feel a little anxious. Like if I watch the news and I start to get that Armageddon is coming feeling, I just I just turn on one of his videos, and then it goes away.
And you're brought back down to baseline again.
Yes, there are two quotes that I really have lived my life by since I've read them. One is that which you don't deal with deals with you always. And I love that quote because it is the absolute truth. And the second quote is a quote that was made by Thomas Paine, and it's more of a political type thing, but it can mean something for your personal life. And it says, when men yield up the privilege of thinking, the last shadow of liberty quits the horizon. And so when you stop thinking and you allow other people to control what you're thinking, you're in prison, is basically what the man
Oh,
said. And I love this quote, and I try to live my life that way.
I love that. I'm speechless right now. Can we just do another video talking about that?
Sure.
That's really, it's true. Because if you let someone, whatever, control you, you're in a prison of sorts. Excellent,
Yes.
excellent. So see a therapist, uh, potentially journal or write your feelings, and do your research, like with Bonnie Zeman's books. I haven't actually read her books yet, but it's kind of on my wish list on Amazon. So and also Lloyd's book is amazing, and so was
Yes,
Crisis
I've
of
read that.
Conscience. Oh my
Yes, and I've
goodness.
read that as well.
And his videos are great because like I said before, it gives you a sense of community.
It
It's
does.
so, and you hear like his voicemails. I love those because they're
Yes,
real people talking about real issues. And he should get an honorary degree as a
he
psychologist or
should.
a therapist, right? Because he
Some of
really
these,
helps.
yes, some of those people, I feel so bad for them when they call in. They just feel so helpless and hopeless.
Yeah.
And I just feel terrible for them.
It's true, and you're like, it's almost like you're sitting there and you're like, got your hand up. Oh, I have something to say. I have some advice for that
Yes,
that person, right? It's
absolutely.
like, oh, so anyways, those are really good pieces of advice. And I know, like, not everyone's in a position to maybe pay for therapy, right? That's
Correct.
an issue, right? But things like Lloyd's channel, even like the Reddit group
Yes.
on XJW on Reddit. I think there's some
Yes.
other ones too. Um, you know, give you some feelings like you're not abnormal, that there's not something wrong with
Absolutely.
you.
That that was one of the
So
biggest things when I met so many people in the XJW community. I was like, "Oh, I had that experience. I'm not the only one that had this experience." And
yeah,
it feels so good to talk to somebody who gets it, because if you haven't been one of Jehovah's Witnesses, you don't know. And I can tell someone all day long what it's like to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses, but they don't really get it unless they were.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and the being raised as a Jehovah's Witness is something that I don't think anybody could really understand unless they were actually went through it.
I agree. I agree. And all these kind of high control oppressive religions, like I said, there's some commonalities in there, but each one has its own unique culture.
Yes.
And the culture we were raised in, it leaves its mark on you, and affects you going
Yes.
into your future, and the decisions you make, and your own self concept, is impacted by that. So if anyone's watching this, and say wants to connect with you or resonates with you, like, should they connect with you on LinkedIn, or maybe just leave a comment in this YouTube video that you can read, or what would you suggest?
Sure. Just leave a comment in the video. I recently got off of all of social media except for LinkedIn because I use that professionally.
Yes.
Um, I did get back on Facebook because my daughter is getting married and we have some events coming up and I'm
Awesome.
using it for that. But I try my hardest to stay off of it because I don't feel it has a place in my life anymore. So if someone wants to leave a comment, um, and I can actually put my LinkedIn profile there, that would be fine if they wanted to message me on LinkedIn.
Excellent. Okay, that's great. And if if someone isn't on LinkedIn, because I know a lot of people aren't, I can always forward your comment or message to Johanna that
Okay.
way, because we're buds now.
Yes,
Yes, we're
absolutely.
in the shunned club, but we're taking the
Yes,
power out of the word shunned because come on, like apostate, give me a break. It's
yes.
just a word.
It's
Anyways,
just a word.
yeah, and I realize not everybody is at that place in their life, so I don't mean to minimize, the trauma that a lot of people are experiencing right now over that, but just know that we've been there. Both Johanna and I have been there, and life is okay on the other side. It just takes some time. That's all, right?
Yes.
So, thank you, Johanna, for your time today. It's really awesome to interview someone who I've never physically met, but we get each other.
Yes, definitely.
And that's really, really nice and really comforting for me. So, I appreciate your
It
time
is for
and
me as well.
good. And I know you're going shopping right now.
Yes.
So, you're off to, am I allowed to say?
Yes, wedding shopping with my daughter. Very
Awesome.
exciting.
Congratulations. That's really, really
Yes,
exciting. And I hope all stays open and you can have a big celebration and not be encumbered by any of the world's pandemic issues.
problems. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I hope so as
absolutely.
well.
All right. Well, thank you again, Johanna. I really wish you the best in life. I mean, you've already accomplished a lot with your education and with work, winning an award. So good on ya, rah rah, and all the best in the future.
Thank you so much.